In this video, I would like to give you a short introduction and overview about data storage on Datacake. Everything starts with your device. So whether it's LoRaWAN, API device, MQTT, whatever, it all happens in the configuration. And here you define the database fields for all the things you want to store. We support different types. You can see that when you add your first field, we have float, integer, boolean, string, counter, geolocation, which is position GPS. You can have to every field, you can add mapping fields. A mapping field is something that maps a value range from an origin to a different value range. Like in this example, we are receiving voltage from a sensor, and we are going to map that to 0 to 100% because that represents the battery charge somehow. You can set boundaries so that it doesn't exceed the 100%. You can apply a factor, but also have a lookup table. But we leave it like it is. And here you've got some different options, floats. And there's also the counter. And the counter is something that's special, which is, I can show you this here with this power meter. It's a power meter. The device is called Klux, and it's reading off an ever-growing value of watt hours. And we are going to convert that into a time dynamic consumption over a period of time. This is what the counter does. And let's go back into configuration. Here you can see the configuration of a different device. We've got one value, it's float. It's an absolute value, and it grows and grows and grows. And from that, we're calculating different things, counters, floats. In that here you can see that there's a factor applied and that there's the counter field. But what happens with all the data? And this is something, or what we had an idea was, this is something that we realized with the part called history. And when you go into that history, history basically is the database viewer. So that means that in here you can select the fields which you want to see in the visualization. And here I've got selected the counter fields. For example, this is the ever-growing field, so it's a week and nothing really happens, but we can, for example, see the relative and absolute development of that time for the counter field. And in the database view and the history, you can select time ranges. You can select, for example, a time range of month. You can just simply swap months or go back 1 month, go back 2 months, and so on, and compare these months. But you could go back to week, and also let's go back into the last week, set the resolution, because now every bar represents the amount of energy consumed within 3 hours. But we could set that to a resolution of 30 minutes, for example, and then you've got a higher resolution. So if you want to export the data, you could use, for example, our REST API or GraphQL, but to make it more easy, most of the customers want an export to an Excel file or JSON. There's this, we've got to change it because it's currently very hidden, but there's this button here, and if you press that, you can export these data directly to Excel, CSV, JSON, and so on. You can select raw data, so it's going into the Excel file, like you send the data from your devices to Datacake. But you can also use a quantization to 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour, 12 hours, 24 hours. Let's do it for 24 hours. Press the export button. And below this, all the exports are being listed. And this one was the export I did today. So simply press the download button. It is now being downloaded. You find it here. And if you, I'm not going to open it up because that it starts Excel, but you've got the file here and you can see it and view it. And this is basically how the database and everything functions. So it starts by creating a device. We support different things here. You could also add mapping fields. We've got a linear scale mapping field, a lookup table where you can define some states and have an output, and a factor. And all those mapping fields are also stored inside our long-term database. Yeah, this is basically an overview of how we deal with data, how we store it, and you can then build dashboards on it, have rules. So rules means, for example, you select one of those fields fields here, and if there's something wrong with that field, yeah, send an SMS, something like that. So it's a basic if this then that rule engine. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.